It's Wild Card Weekend 2025, so let's get wild. Welcome to Two for Your Money. Glad you're here. And if you like the show, don't forget to hit subscribe and follow us across all social media. Then you'll get notified each and every time a new show drops. Steve Budin here, legend in my own mind, owner and operator of the largest sports betting analysis company in the world. And I'm joined each and every week by my partner in crime, the always entertaining, reigning heavyweight handicapping champion of the world. You know who I'm talking about. Brandon Lang, what's up, champ?
Arigato. Life's good, my man. Leading up to the Super Bowl. Got some great games this weekend. As I always say each and every week, life's good, man. Life's good.
Well, so many gambling shows to watch out there, but none like this one. Nowhere will you find two better opinions that come from two more opposite sides of the track. Brandon, hands down, the most well-known handicapper in the industry. Love it or hate it, he's a household name, but only if that house is filled with obsessive, compulsive gamblers who want a winner like a fat kid wants cake. Me, on the other hand, former bookmaker, creator of the offshore and online sports betting industry. For 20 years, I made my money on the dark side, taking the bets. But for the last 20 years, I've joined forces with you, the gambler. And the rest, my friends, is history. Okay, before we get into this week's games, Brandon, I turn to you because I got to get your opinion on this. And let's talk a little bit Las Vegas. It's a sunny place for shady people. You lived there for a decade. I worked there for over a decade. And when it comes to gambling and overall entertainment, well, it's nothing short of the center of the universe. Now, Brandon, as a gambler, what's your favorite casino game to play, and where do you like to play it? And maybe give a little advice to some of the gamblers out there who could certainly use some.
There's no debate. There's no question. There's no argument. It's craps. It's the number one game where the odds are in your favor. But more than that, the advice I give to people when they come to Vegas, most notably my friends when they come to Vegas to gamble, is bring what you expect to lose, not what you expect to win. Here's why. If you come and you say, I can afford to lose $2,000, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to drink, I'm going to hang out with my friends. When you go to the table, whether it's blackjack, craps, roulette, whatever it is, you gamble more loose than you gamble tight. If you're afraid to lose, you gamble tight. If you don't care and you fly by the seat of your pants, you tend to take more chances. And you actually, my friends have told me, they've won with that attitude. And when you get a group of people, 5 or 6 or 7 people, your group, and you take over a craps table, there is nothing better than the energy of someone getting on that tear with the dice. People can be walking by and hear the energy of your table. They will step in and see. And if you got somebody rolling numbers for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes, that table is 4 or 5 deep, because every number you hit, 4, bam, wow, 7, 6, bam, 10, bam, 9, bam, 8, bam. The emotion of that table, you will never forget if somebody in your group goes on a tear. And craps is pretty simple, the basic of it, which is the first roll comes out, it's a 6. You got to roll that 6 before you roll that 7 to win your money, and that's a pass. If that 7 comes before the 6, it's a no pass. Now, that's the base of it. Now, you roll a 4, you roll a 5, you roll an 8, you roll a 9, you roll a 10. You're betting those numbers as well. So if he continues to roll anything but a 7, you're making money on each roll. And I'll say it again. Out for my wedding, November 9th, we took over a craps table. There was 10 of us. I went on a 40-minute roll. I hit every number on the table. So every number was played on the table. The only number I had to hit before the 7 was my 9 to win the money, or an 11, because everybody bet every number on the table. And would you know, Steve-O, for 40 minutes, I hit every single number for 40 minutes, but a 7 or an 11. And the table was set for everybody to get paid massive and I threw the 7 before I could throw the 11s. Everybody still got paid. We made huge money on that 40-minute roll. But I can tell you it was one of the most epic emotional runs of everybody just getting into it. It was epic, and that's what craps is to me.
Yeah, so let's just expand on that a little bit. So like what you're talking about is quantum craps, right? The ability for the energy of the table to take over. And it always seems like when the energy is there, the hand shows up. Very rarely do you see a dead table make money, right? That's why table selection when it comes to craps is so important. There's nothing worse than being at the library, I call it, right? When you're at that quiet crap table and that crap table next to you is screaming. There's nothing worse than that. Look, when you play craps, and craps is also my favorite game, so I know a little bit about it. When you play craps, B, you say it's the best odds in the house, and you're right, because when you're playing the pass line that you talked about when you're on the come out roll and you're playing the come bets and they're letting you take odds on the come bets, those odds that you put on the pass line and those odds bet that you put on the come bets, they actually pay you the true odds. It's the only game in the casino where there's a bet that pays you the actual right amount probability wise that it's supposed to pay you. No other game in the casino allows you to do that, and it's what they would call in a supermarket a loss leader, because they give you that bet in assumption that you're going to bet the hard ways and you're going to bet, the field bets, and you're going to make place bets, and then they're going to let them take advantage of you on all those other bets. But if you stay disciplined and just bet the come line and the pass line, you're actually, even up pretty much. I think the casino has a 0.0003% advantage. Zero, virtually zero. I like to go to the Golden Gate downtown. It's right across from Circa, one of your favorite places. And the reason I go is because they allow you to bet 10 times odds. So you can put literally $100 on the line and $1,000 behind the line. And then you don't even have to really play come bets. There's something called a put bet. A put bet is after that 6 is established, that on the come out roll that you talked about. Instead of going through the minutia of putting down the come bets, you can just say, put a come bet on the 8 for me. Give them 100 and 1,000, and you don't have to go. They'll place that come bet for you. So now you can place the come bets wherever you want, whatever your favorite numbers are, and whether your strategy is 2 come bets or 3 come bets or all come bets. Right now, I've been on a lot of heaters in my life. I very rarely see 7s not come. If you have an hour or an hour and a half roll or a 40-minute roll, the 7s are going to show. But when they come at the right times, right, that's when you can have a prolonged hand. So if they're coming on the come out rolls, then you're okay. If they're coming obviously in the middle of a hand, you're out. But you need to have a few 7s along the line. My best hand ever was actually in Mississippi at one of Caesar's properties in Mississippi. And I was there, and these girls came. And this girl, every time she would roll, she would go, My daddy said I should bet on the 11. Now, she would roll, and the 8 would come, the 6 would come, the 8 would come, the 10 would come. But by the time we were 40 minutes in, this is how crap games go, the whole crowd, and they were 10 deep, were going, my daddy said to bet the 11. And it was like a thing, you know what I mean? And it was like quantum craps, right? And she's about an hour and 20 minutes in, no doubt, with about 16 passes, right? We had started with 1,500. Now we've got about 77,000 in chips in our rack. Forget about what's on the table. And she's shooting for a 6. And I take her, and I walk her off the table and call a timeout. And I walk her down, which no one's ever seen this done before. And I walk her down by the slot machines, and I say, okay, listen, this is probably one of the biggest numbers I've ever had in my life. I got 5,000 on the line, and I got 25,000 odds. It's a big hand, and it's a big number. I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to walk back to that table. You're going to pick up the dice, and you're going to throw that number, and then we're going to leave. All right, we're going to stop, because there's no rule that says you have to wait for the 7 out. You can pull your chips down at some point and walk off a winner. Brandon, as God is my witness, we walked back to that table. She picked up the dice. I whispered in her ear, tell me what number Patrick Ewing is. She looked at me because she don't know who Patrick Ewing is. She rolled the dice, and the guy yells 3-3. It's a hard 6. I get paid an amazing amount of money. I think I wind up taking in like $130,000 total for the roll. It was an epic role. It was unbelievable. And Biloxi, Mississippi, it happened in, and I could just see like the manager on the phone who's watching from the eye in the side going, "Who let that Jew into?" And it was just an unbelievable role. Anyway, let's take a quick left turn now. Go ahead.
My new wife had never played craps.
Yeah.
And she loved saying, "Come back."
Right. Yeah.
Around our household, it's like, "Honey, we need 8 on the come, baby, 8 on the come." So a lot of coming in craps, my man.
When I called all down, right, which is why it was like $120,000 win or $130,000 win rather than $100,000 win, because you took $20,000 in chips off the table. Everybody was like, no, you can't stop. You can't stop. How could you stop? No one does that. Well, watch me. And we got our chips and we left. My friend Kenny, who you know, also made a good amount. Bought the girl at the time an $8,000 used car. We're talking about 20 years ago. She almost died. I mean, so it was an unbelievable hand.
That's Kenny for you. That's Kenny for you in a nutshell, right there.
Craps by far is the most exciting game, because you could scream at a blackjack table, but nobody really does that. I mean, every now and then at a baccarat table, someone will yell "monkey," you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, craps is where it's at. If you believe that with energy you have the chance to control the outcome of a game, well, craps is your game. All right, so let's take a quick left turn now to the NBA, where Jimmy Butler has been in the news. And I just want to get your thoughts on what's going on with Butler and how the Heat are going to handle that.
First of all, I don't trust anybody who paints their fingernails black. That's a red flag for me, bro. Secondly, we touched on this a few weeks ago about the problem in the NBA. And this is what happens when you pay these guys all this guaranteed money, and then they become disgruntled, and they become upset, and they don't become happy, and they demand a trade. And I think Pat Riley handled the situation pretty bad when he should have just said, "All right, fine. Let me get a trade for you, because if you don't want to be here, you're going to become a cancer that's going to affect the whole team." And the Heat are reeling right now because of this. Trade him, get some new people in here, and start going. They lost by 39 the other night at home to somebody that was just atrocious. And it's just the whole situation because of a disgruntled superstar that, you remember the pickup basketball court that got pissed, took his ball and left, so he had to go get another ball. Right. It's basically what we have with Jimmy Butler. And people ask me why I don't watch the NBA. There you have it, right? I may watch the big guy for San Antonio, who I think is just epic. I like Jalen Brunson a lot. Yep. I like Steph Curry a lot. I like Luka a lot.
Best.
I watch it for certain players now, not teams, because it's just unwatchable. Because the money they're getting made, and it's not like back when Jordan played and Kobe played, and that's it. And so I think Riley handled it poorly, and now he's trying to get out of the situation. Trade him, be done with it, get somebody else in there, and see if the Heat can turn it around. But it's pathetic that these stars can now control what's going on, and the general manager really has no power.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know this, B. When you have Pat Riley sitting in the pilot's seat, you don't question him. You just fasten your seatbelt and you thank God that he's the one flying the plane. Whatever they come to here, I think he'll get to the right choice. He knows what to do. He handled LeBron. He's handled the biggest names in the industry. He'll handle Jimmy Butler. And the Heat will be relevant with or without Jimmy Butler. Riley has proven that over the decades, he will keep a team relevant. Okay, moving right along.
But Steven, let me say this. The second he went after Spoelstra.
Right, Spoelstra.
The second that happened on national TV in front of everyone, he should have been suspended.
Yeah.
Then they should have put a trade in the works because it was not going to get better at that point. What I mean by Riley handled it wrong was that he let that fester and go on for a few weeks and backed himself into a that's my coach. Let me want you. All right, let me get you the hell out of here. You're a piece of shit. Never like Jimmy Butler, not one of my guys, and I hope they ship him off to somewhere where he just rocks. But
I'm with you. All right, moving right along, let's shift gears from the NBA to last week in the NFL, where there was a few heartbreaking losses or thrilling victories, depending on which side of the coin you were on. B, what was the worst beat on the street last week and why?
It had to be the there really wasn't one, to be honest with you. There really wasn't one. It was the end of the season where teams are trying to win to get in. The Saints were laying a big number, 14.5, never came near sniffing it to win again in the playoffs. Atlanta needed Tampa Bay to lose. They had to win to get in. They were laying 10 or 7.5, 8 to Carolina at home. They didn't cover, lost outright. Two big favorites that didn't even come close. That Vegas had a lot of money coming on Tampa, had a lot of money coming on Atlanta, thinking they have to win to have a chance. Neither one came close to covering as a favorite. But as far as a really bad beat is concerned, there really wasn't one. There really wasn't.
Well, for me, like I looked at Minnesota and what you think about Detroit or Minnesota. I don't think anyone thought they would come out and be a complete fake the way they were. I mean, they had a really good season, and to come out and just blow an egg at that point was really hard to watch. I don't know that it necessarily was a bad beat, but if you're made money on Minnesota all year long and then you bet on them in that game, that had to be tough to watch. I stayed away from that game myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, on the show, I gave out the over.
Right.
And when it came to Sunday, on the website, I came with my biggest NFL play of the year on Detroit minus the points.
Yeah. Good call.
And as I dug into the game more, I realized that in their 9-game winning streak, the Vikings had only beaten 2 teams with a winning record.
That's right.
Green Bay and Seattle. The Seattle game on the road struggled to win 27-24. The Arizona Cardinal game at home, 23-22. They went to Jacksonville and struggled 12-7. And so as I looked at the game, I said, Detroit has had one game this year where they didn't play well, and that was their defense against Buffalo. Other than that, they were in the red zone 8 times against Tampa and scored 1 touchdown. Tampa didn't win that game. Detroit lost that game. But other than that, the Lions have destroyed people all year long. Now, 2 first-and-goal situations early in the game for Minnesota. They scored 10 points there instead of 0. Now you have impossible over and play. Now you got some points going on. But it was Sam Darnold regressing and missing throws that were there. That was the disappointing aspect. And later on in the show, we'll talk about the Rams in Minnesota because it was more or less Sam Darnold not making plays because there were plays there to be made. And even his head coach, Kevin O'Connell, said after the game, those were throws that Sam had made all year. He just didn't make them Sunday night, but I'm confident he can make them going forward. Well, we'll see, because Sam Darnold was really the disappointment, not Minnesota as a team, but Darnold as a quarterback let the Vikings down on Sunday night.
And we'll get into more about Minnesota and Darnold in a few. But before we get into that thing that everybody came for, right, the weekly free pick winners, let's do on this show what no other sports gambling show does. Let's take a look around the country and discuss what the fuck is going on, B. Southern California is burning. California fire crews are struggling to contain fires after they've drastically cut water supplies over the past decade. That was a brilliant move. Malibu set to burn. L.A. now is looking bad. The incompetence is seemingly on full display here, B. What the fuck is going on?
Near and dear to my heart.
Yep.
Was watching this for a couple of reasons. One, I have a lot of friends in L.A. My buddy James McCoy is the #1 teaching tennis pro at Riviera Country Club. You know, Riviera is where I networked the movie. Riviera is where I caddied in the 1999 Nissan Open for Ted Treba. He shot the course record 61 with me on the bag, still stands to this day. The fire was a half-mile away from Riviera. They evacuated, and for all intents and purposes, they thought the wind was going to take out Riviera. Well, as the luck of Riviera would have it, the wind changed, and Riviera dodged the bullet. They actually evacuated into Santa Monica,
right,
which is just past Riviera, but for whatever reason, the fire was above Riviera because Riviera sits in a canyon. It burned above it, but it didn't go down into it. It's amazing Riviera dodged the bullet. When you put morons in charge of a state and a city, You're putting yourself in for trouble. Their governor is clueless and a complete buffoon. Their mayor is over in Africa when the city starts to burn. She took a budget of $1.3 billion to fix the homeless problem and took away $17 million of the fire department. Half of that $1.3 billion didn't even get used. She stripped the fire department, who, by the way, is now run by a lesbian of the LBGQ, whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
So now you have lesbians running your fire department. You got a mayor who's completely clueless and a governor who's completely clueless. What did you think was going to happen, Steve-O? What did you think was going to happen? It has burned to the ground because your leadership dropped the ball 4 years ago when Trump came in and said, you need to fix your water problem. I'll pass a bill for you. And Gavin said, no, thanks, Donald. Go fuck yourself. Well, there you go, because your city burned down.
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and well taken. And it's crazy, right? Because you have all these liberal snowflakes that are like, it's climate change. It's the wind. We told you this would happen. This is climate change. Listen to me. This is not climate change, right? This is not God's fault. Like you said, it's Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. That's who's to blame here. And one of them doesn't understand the first thing about fire management or forest management for the most part. And the other one, like you said, refused to fill the water reservoirs for 10 years. This just didn't happen yesterday. This is 10 years in the making. Then you have the power lines that are sparking in the middle of the trees, and the power company won't turn the power off. It's like Hawaii all over again. And here's the thing, B, where I disagree with you. It's not moronic. It's not incompetence. This is all on purpose. It's not a coincidence that every liberal city and every liberal state is systematically being destroyed. New York, LA, Denver, Portland, and the list goes on and on and on. People need to open their eyes and wake up. Is Gavin Newsom a moron, or is he a diabolical genius? I don't know, but just to say it's incompetence and moronic, I think is letting them off the hook. I think they need to be prosecuted for their crimes. I think it's time that everybody wakes up and throws out these liberals that are in charge of these cities, and instead of watching these cities burn, look at San Francisco. It all started there. San Francisco 20 years ago was the most beautiful place in the world. Everybody wanted to go there. Walgreens won't even open there anymore. I mean, it's a disaster what's going on, and people are walking around like zombies. I mean, it's crazy. They're on the crank. They're on the crocodile. There's so many new drugs they seem to all be the fentanyl. They're dropping dead left and right, and this is the result of having liberals in charge. Go ahead. I know you're itching to say something.
Let me go one step further. State Farm and Allstate came to city officials in California and said, listen, if you want us to cover fire for homeowners, we need to raise our rates.
Right.
City officials said, you can't. We're not going to let you. Well, then fine. We're going to pull fire off the table. So that's how that went down. So now you have all these homeowners whose houses have burned down that have no fire because city officials said, we're not going to let you raise your rates. It's comical.
Wow.
How bad the state is run.
Yeah.
Great place to be. Great place to visit.
Yeah.
The weather's perfect.
We love California.
Could be one of the worst states. Could be one of the worst states in the country.
Yeah.
The way it's run.
Well, let me tell you, if you have diabetes, you smoke cigarettes, you drink alcohol every night and do drugs, and you go and try to get health insurance, what's going to happen? It's going to cost you 10 times more than a guy who's in shape, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, lives a good lifestyle. He's going to pay much less than you. It's the same thing here. You know, they're not going to allow a state like California to completely avoid and forget about their responsibilities when it comes to fighting fire. You said it when you asked the fire department, and listen, I love lesbians, I love gay people. I wish every guy was gay but me. I have no problem with the gay community. But when your number one goal as a fire department is to hire more lesbians, and they came out and said that. You're not making that up. It sounded crazy when you said it, but they said that. They said, our number one goal as a fire department this year is to hire more lesbians. Wow. Shouldn't it be to just fight fires? Like Russia puts out these fires. They fly planes over everything. They drop the load on top, and they're the best at it. Why can Russia do it and we can't do it? It's crazy. It's insane. And until the people stop standing for it and stop electing these idiots, it's going to remain that way. Okay, go ahead.
And also, last thing I'm going to say, I don't have a problem with gays and lesbians either.
Yep.
I just would not put them in a position of power when it comes to manly positions. Sorry, it's my opinion. I stand by it, and there you go.
Listen, if the strongest, best person to handle a fire happens to be a woman, I'm all for it. But obviously, in the cases where we go to war, we fight fires, we have policemen, they should be big, strong men. That's not being a homophobe. That's being a realist. I want everybody safe. I want everybody protected. I want meritocracy, not DEI. I want the best possible people in the best positions to do the best job. I don't think there's anything un-American about that. I think that's actually American. Okay, before we go forward, just want to talk about the #1 sports analysis website in the country. I'm talking about 2foryourmoney.com. 17 of the top handicappers in the country, including me, including Brandon. It's a one-stop shop for everything that you need to get an edge on your man. Brandon, tell us more about 2foryourmoney.com.
Yeah, I haven't lost a football play here in 2025. So don't know if I can keep that. Don't know if I can keep that completely going. But Notre Dame got the job done over Georgia, Minnesota first half, Buffalo, Liberty, Sunday over Minnesota, and of course we're rolling into this weekend. So yeah, I don't know if I can keep it going for all of 2025, but we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, it's a tall order. But here's what you need to do right now out there. Go to 2foryourmoney.com. Grab yourself a free all-access pass and get 2 days absolutely free. All the premium picks, every capper on the site. Exactly what a paying customer gets. If you were buying a one-day pass on the site, it'd be an average of $100. So that's a $200 value, absolutely free. And ask yourself these 2 questions. 1, if our premium picks weren't great, why would we let you try them before you buy them? And number 2 is, what do you have to lose? It's absolutely free. It's the all-access pass only at 2foryourmoney.com. All right, guys, it is now that time, drum roll, the time that you've all been waiting for. Here come the winners. It's this week's free picks. But remember, guys, free picks are just that, free picks. For your best chance to win, grab the all-access pass and the premium plays from every top handicapper in the country, all on our website. That's what Brandon does, that's what I do, and that's what you should do too. Okay, let's get down to business. It's wild card weekend, and there is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. There's nothing that the odds makers know at this point that you, the gambler, don't know as well. Your opinion better be sharp. Now let's get ready to go head-to-head with your bookie. First up, it's Saturday action. It's an AFC North rubber match. Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens about to throw down on Saturday night, and the winner will advance to the divisional round, and the loser will go home. They split the season series 1-1, Brandon, but the Ravens are the biggest favorites among all teams in the opening round. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Baltimore -10, total 43.5. Go get them, Lang.
I'm going to go under the posted total. The only reason why the second meeting in Baltimore went over, 2 big turnovers by Russell Wilson. The gravity of this game. Baltimore's defense is playing better. These 2 teams know each other. First meeting went under the posted total. You don't take chances in the playoffs. You run the football, wait for the other team to make the mistake. I think both teams are going to try to establish the run. I'm going to go under 43.5 here, and what I think is going to be a defensive matchup between 2 teams that probably know one another better than any 2 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, and if you're a numbers guy like me, B, it's going to be hard to lay that 10 points. So these teams just played in Baltimore 3 weeks ago. Ravens were a 7.5-point favorite at home. Steelers' #1 receiver, George Pickens, was a DNP. Now he's back. Meanwhile, the Ravens' #1 receiver, Zay Flowers, he hurt his knee last week. So Pittsburgh's got its top weapon back. Baltimore's top receivers hurt. Yet the Ravens are laying a bigger number on Saturday than they were 3 weeks ago. That's kind of something that makes you go, Look, I'm going to go back to what you said, the old faithful with these two, the under. Prior to the over in Week 16, which that game wasn't over, there was 8 straight unders. 4 of the last 5 Steeler games have gone under. The Steelers' offense has obviously hit a wall, and Baltimore might be in a little bit of trouble with Flowers not healthy. I'm going to play the under. I think it's the right play here. This is scary because we both agree. Let's play the under the posted total. Next up, we go to Sunday action. Many people believe that this would be a down year for the Bills. You know, if my ex-wife was named after a team B, she'd be the Bills. But man, were they wrong. The Bills, number 2 seed in the playoffs, earning themselves what looks to me like an easy first rounder against the Denver Broncos, who snuck into the postseason after taking down a Chiefs team in Week 18 that played mostly scrubs and backups. So will the Bills start their latest playoff run on the right foot, or will the Broncos pull off one of the biggest upsets in recent postseason history? Denver at Buffalo. Buffalo 8.5, total 46.5. You go first, champ.
This is the most interesting game to me of all of them, because all Buffalo has done for the most part at home this year has buried people. And now you got Denver coming in here, whose defense everybody's in love with. I watched on Monday night how Cleveland and Jameis Winston went up there and put up 31 on them in Denver, and probably could have put up 40 if not for 2 pick sixes by Winston. That was the Cleveland Browns offense. I just think Buffalo at home is going to score. I don't care who you are, and I don't care if Denver's defense is going to go in there with confidence. Buffalo at home is going to put up a 30 spot. Nothing Denver's going to do is going to stop that. I think Denver's going to have some success offensively. I'm not going to mess with the 9.5 number because I think the back door potentially could be open. But I'm going to go over that 46.5 because I don't think Denver's going to be stopped, which is going to force Denver to throw. I'm going to go over that 46.5.
All right, so another game, another total. Let's take a look at the numbers, Brandon, because Denver went 2-5 straight up, 3-4 against the spread against teams this year that are in the playoffs. That includes that sham of a win in Week 18 against the Chiefs, second stringers. Denver caught New Orleans in Week 6. Saints' second game without Derek Carr. Denver caught Carolina in Week 8. Andy Dalton was out. They caught Atlanta in Week 11. Half the Falcons' starting defense was out. If you don't count the Week 18 game against the Chiefs, the only playoff team that Denver beat this season was Tampa Bay, and that was in Week 3. Look, I got Buffalo here in a double-digit blowout. I don't like laying big wood, but again, sometimes if a game looks too easy, it is. Buffalo here, the double-digit blowout covers the spread. Next up, it's the Sunday night bailout game. It's the Washington Commanders against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Commanders lost at Tampa Bay in Week 1 of the regular season, but this is an entirely different football team now. Washington, 5 straight wins heading into the playoffs, including one over the NFC East champion Eagles. Washington at Tampa. Tampa's 3, total 50.5. What do you like, B-Lang?
Well, they met week 2. They met Week 1.
Right.
First career start, rookie quarterback on the road, and Washington got blown out. And the question on the table here is, if Tampa brings their A game, right, this game's not going to be close. They didn't bring their A game last week against the Saints. They struggled. And then they got it going in the fourth quarter and did enough to win. I thought what they did for Mike Evans to get him those 5 yards was epic. With 26 seconds to go and they could take the knee. I think potentially we're going to get Tampa's A game here. I think Washington's going to come out slow in the first half. I'm going to take Tampa Bay -2 in the first half. I think they come out, the crowd, I think they get up on them early. Jalen Daniels has got to throw to get him back in the ball game. I'm going to take Tampa first half -1.5. I think Tampa comes out and listen, they went into L.A. to face the Chargers, who have the #1 scoring defense in the NFL. When they're clicking, they yawned and put up 41 on Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. They bring their A game. Nobody's stopping them. I'm going to take them the first half -1.5.
It's an interesting play. All right, so look, I think Washington is likely to be one of these trendy underdog picks this week. You see it on a lot of the pick sites and the different channels across the internet. But let me just pump the brakes on that real quick. And remember this, guys, young quarterbacks tend to struggle in their first road playoff start. That's just historic. That's what happens. Washington failed to cover the spread in their last 3 road games. Daniels was an amazing college quarterback, but his teams didn't win. They didn't win anything. Not his fault, you're right, but he has no big game experience. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay at home. I'm going to take them in the game. I understand the first half play. I like to take a team in the game. It allows me to adjust at halftime if I see something crazy. When you take that first half bet, and you're usually right about these things, you have to be right because there's nowhere to hedge, there's nowhere to run. If I bet Tampa in the game and something happens in the first half that I didn't expect, I always have that ability to come in at halftime and change things around. So I'm going with Tampa Bay in the game to cover the spread. And finally, the number 5 seed, Minnesota Vikings. We talked about them earlier. They're going to visit the number 4 seed, Los Angeles Rams, in the NFC Showdown on Monday Night Football, which is kind of new. The Vikings didn't win their division despite going 14-3 during the regular season. That's because they lost to the Detroit Lions, 31-9. We talked about that earlier in Week 18 for that number 1 seed. Meanwhile, the Rams clinched the NFC West. They rested their starters in Week 18, lost that game. It was a giveaway. These teams played in Week 8. The Rams won 30-20, so keep that in mind. The Vikings are 1.5 at the Rams, total 47.5. Let's finish strong here, Brandon. Who do you like?
That first meeting was interesting because the Vikings were at home against Detroit. Great game, jumped out to a 10-0 lead. Lions came back out, scored them 21-0 in the second quarter, won the game 31-29, went out to L.A. on a short week and kind of got caught, lost 30-20. The game comes down to one thing, and we touched on it at the top of the show. You either win with Sam Darnold or you lose with Sam Darnold, right? Because it's going to fall on the shoulders of Sam Darnold. Yeah. How he plays is how Minnesota is going to go in this game. So bottom line, gun to your head. Who do you trust? You trust Matthew Stafford or you trust Darnold? Because in a near pick'em game, the team that wins is the team that's going to cover the number. Sam Darnold reverted back to the New York Jet.
Yes.
Sam Darnold against the Lions.
Yes.
And in a game like this, in a near pick'em game, hard to believe a team that went 14-3 this year could be bounced out of the playoffs. They're 14-3. There's probably 4 games in there they probably should have lost, and we're looking at a 10-7 football team. Great year for Sam Darnold. Resurrected his career, but it ends here. Stafford and the Rams roll into Detroit next week. Stafford goes home. What a game that's going to be. Yeah. Rams get it done.
You know, we always say you never bring last week into this week, right? Like you have to kind of like start each week fresh because, you know, you have that gambler's memory, which never does good for you. But even saying that, I can't bet the Vikings after last week. I'm sorry. I just can't. Look, it's Sean McVay against his former assistant, Kevin O'Connell, right? And these guys know how to push each other's buttons. They both had excellent game plans heading into their last game. This is going to be Minnesota's 3rd road game in the last 4 weeks. Their defense has got to be worn out a little bit. I think Darnold, he'll probably erase the demons from Sunday night against the Lions, and the Vikings offense will go on a score for score with Matthew Stafford and the Rams. I think it comes down possibly to the last possession of the game. I don't know who gets it. I lean towards the Rams, but I do think we're going to see some offensive fireworks in this game. That's why this total is so high. I'm going over the posted total. I think that when players get away from the Jets, they just do better. We saw that with Sam Darnold. I think he'll return to old glory, but I don't think it'll be enough to win this game. I think we'll see a lot of scoring, and I'm going to go over the posted total. But I do agree with what you said, and I do think if you're going to bet a side, that you bet the Rams. Okay, that'll do it this week. But before we go, Brandon, last but not least, got a lot of comments last week about that one. It's the joke of the week. Okay, you go first, B. Hit me with your best joke of the week.
So a guy meets an assassin in a parking lot, says, I hear you charge $10,000 for a bullet. $10,000 a bullet. Sass says, you got that right. And he says, well, my wife is at a hotel right now. And she's fucking my best friend. So I want us to go over there. I got 20 grand. I want you to shoot her in the head, and I want you to shoot that cocksucker's cock off. That's what I want. Sass says, let's go. They drive over. They get on top of the rooftop across the street, and he's got the hotel room right there, pulls out his gun. He's putting his scope on, and, well, he's got it. He's got it right there, and he's waiting. About 3 minutes goes by, and the guy says, come on, man, what are you waiting for? And the assassin says, just hold your horses here, pal. I might be able to save you 10 grand.
Jesus Christ. All right, so a guy's driving. Yeah, I liked it. I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it tonight at dinner. All right, a guy's driving home from work and pulls up. He sees on the corner this girl there, beautiful girl, ass out, tits out, pulls his car up to her. He says, hey, baby, how much for a hand job? She says $1,000. He says $1,000 for a hand job? She points over and says, you see that Porsche parked over there? He says, yeah. She said, I got that Porsche giving hand jobs. I give the best hand jobs in the world. Guy says, all right. He peels out the $1,000. He gives it to her. Best hand job he's ever had. Next day after work, same corner, same girl, ass out, tits out. He pulls over. He says, honey, how much for a blowjob? She says, $2,500. He says, $2,500 for a blowjob. She says, you see the condo behind the Porsche? That's my condo. I got that condo giving blowjobs. I give the best blowjobs in the world. Yeah, all right. Pulls out the $2,500, gives it to her. B, it's the best blowjob he's ever had in the world. Next day after work, he couldn't wait. Same corner, same girl, ass out, tits out. Pulls over, he says, hey, honey, how much for some pussy? She said, well, if I had a pussy, I wouldn't be so good at hand jobs and blowjobs. All right, we're done here. Episode is in the can. Don't forget, follow us and hit subscribe, and make sure you go to twoforyourmoney.com and grab a 2-day free all-access pass. We'll see you next week. For Brandon Lang, I am Steve Budin, and we are Two for Your Money.